Professor Spence, thank you so much for joining. And I want to go back to asymmetric information, which I guess we can talk. Stiglitz had that ridiculously simple equation, which you tossed out the window. But when you look at asymmetric information, I want you to take it over to politics and explain the game theory of transition as you see it. What is so asymmetric about transition that we need to be aware and cognizant of moving to January 20th?
Well, I mean, one administration's going out and the other one's going in. And what we're seeing now, I hope it changes, is that values triumph over game theory incentives in the transition, at least in all past cases, as far as I'm aware. At least in the last multiple number of elections, the transition has been a cooperative exercise. So basically, somebody flips a switch. Now, there's a huge amount of information transfer that's required. An incoming administration has to absorb a fantastic amount of information. So the asymmetry at the start is enormous, and that is why we count on having a cooperative approach to the transition.
I think of the work out of the University of Texas just simply on democracy. And Professor Spence, it goes to your statement on values as well. Do you perceive a normalcy that Mr. Biden can go to that is a foundational value, or does he need to construct new values?
No, I think by and large, at least from my point of view, Tom and Francine, he's going to values that we our traditional relation in the foreign sphere, relationships with our allies, in the domestic sphere, trying to bring people together and to achieve more inclusive growth patterns. I mean, I think he's sincere about that, and I don't think they're new values. It's a complicated environment, and he has to deal with a divided population, at least judging from the vote, on the one hand, and he has to deal with a pretty wide range of opinions about what the right policy approaches are within his own Democratic Party.
Professor, what does that mean for how Joe Biden deals with China? What does it mean with how he deals with vaccinations and coronavirus?
So coronavirus, let me take it in reverse order. Coronavirus, I think he and his team understand that it's very difficult to have a complete recovery without thorough containment of the virus. So I expect in the short run, and I haven't read much about this, that they'll go after that. And we may experience a bit of a dip economically as a result of that, because we've had a much looser approach up till now. So that's what I'm expecting. But once they do get it under control, and with the vaccines on the horizon that have moved sentiment and markets, and I think they could get off to a pretty good start, at least and ramp up in the second quarter. On China, again, we're going to have to wait and see. He's putting together a talented and experienced team, but my guess is he'll rebuild relationships with allies first and not do anything terribly dramatic on the China front, but once he and his team get their kind of feet on the ground, I think the approach to China will be more constructive. I mean, the current trade war is not doing anybody any good. So I think they'll acknowledge tensions with China and real issues, and then try to sort of negotiate over time something that makes more sense from the point of view of both countries. Look for areas of cooperation and try to deal with the areas of natural tension in a more constructive way.
Michael Spence, at home, how does Joe Biden try and spur support, or at least get the 70 million people that voted for President Trump to trust him, to give them something that is more solid, a path forward? Or is Donald Trump, because he refuses to concede the election, doing that for him?
No, I don't think. I mean, my sense of we looked at this fairly carefully. My sense of the Donald Trump supporters are that they're really committed. Now, what they're going to do after he's no longer in office, it's very difficult to know. But I think that Joe Biden probably, and his team probably understand that you don't convert these people, who A, supported Trump, B, don't trust a wide range of institutions, including, the coastal elites, the media, et cetera. People like me, academics, so-called experts.
Yeah, well, not me.
What? No, not you. And so I think, there isn't a quick fix to that. I think what he'll try to do is, rejigger the economy so that the people who have suffered in the past few years in terms of employment and opportunity, have more opportunities and have a better life ahead of them. Focus on the young generation and win them over slowly.
Michael Spence, there's a desire for normalcy of too many people, including supporters of President Trump. What does economic normalcy look like at the White House, at the chairman of the Council of President's Council of Economic Advisors or National Economic Advisor? What's your definition or path to normalcy?
It has been, ever since the pandemic started, control of the virus, recovery of the heavily hit sectors, including especially the ones that are large employers, rapid sort of intelligent deployment of the vaccine to vulnerable people, but especially first to the people on the front lines, the medical folks. And normalcy feels like, the usual chaotic situation. But I think it's important to say, Tom and Francine, we're not going to return to something that really feels like normal for a fairly long time. We have had an enormous amount of balance sheet damage. We have a huge increment in debt, and we're going to have low interest rates for a long, long time. So this isn't, by some sort of historical definition, isn't going to feel like normal, once the virus is over. There's lingering effects.